Podcast. I'm CB. This is Emily. We're here today with John Hussmann,
Hey.
local Wilmington musician, singer, songwriter, guitar shredder, etc., etc.
All the stuff.
All the things.
Neighborhood player.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
We it's funny, like every time that we have an episode of The Voice and Pen where we're performing or at a podcast or any other music thing that I attend in Wilmington, I always see people and I'm like, I met you at an open mic.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
That's come up many times.
yeah. Where I just saw at the former tasting room,
Yes.
and that's just saw Emily perform at the new spot Banter, and I got to perform there again as Banter.
Nice.
But that was a great spot where a lot of people met for the first time. I feel like you've been here a while, but. Delia Stanley, and I kind of told that story in a little Instagram post, but I went to an open mic at another spot and wasn't super comfortable there, but I saw Delia Stanley play while I was at that open mic, and in her own way, at somebody else's open mic, announced that she was going to have an open mic.
Yeah, the way that Delia does.
Yeah, and I said, that's, so I like that. I'm going to go check hers out, and I think it was the first one that she did there, and I had just moved here 6 months before, something like that. Didn't know a soul, and got a chance to kind of be the first one there. Talk to her. I was I didn't bring an instrument. I just wanted to feel it out. And by the end of the night, I think I was playing with you.
Yes.
And now longtime friend and partner in crime, JJ Street, was there on the cajon, and I mean, him and I are doing the show tomorrow, and just met a lot of people that, and I think almost everybody who's still playing is still playing.
Yeah, in some way or somewhere.
Yeah.
Like Patrick Carr moved to Raleigh.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a ton of people that came out of that open mic. Every time I walk by that building, I think about that. And I do remember that night very specifically because I did what I always do when somebody that's a way better guitar player than me plays right before me. I'm like, hey, do you want to sit in with me? Because otherwise I could run people off next.
Yeah.
I'm like, you've done this before. So that was fun. Thank you for saving me.
No, that was fun. And before that, I hadn't really played on stage for 4.5 years.
Oh, wow.
And so that was a little nerve-wracking for me because I really kind of came in going, I want to play again.
Yeah.
I want to get back up on stage. Jumping in, and getting past that uncomfortabableness of doing that, that was the first night. And I just remember like, okay, well, people seem friendly, I remembered a scale.
I had no idea, man. That's super cool. Wow. Okay, there's the other side of that coin, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting to me because this would have been, I think, like 2017, 16, 17, somewhere in that time frame. One of those 2 years, I think.
Yep.
So, and I didn't know that you had stopped playing for a while. So what had gotten you off stage? Like what had changed?
To be honest with you, in 2010-ish, my wife and I decided we had gotten married. She had said that she had always wanted to move to Florida. Our local economy, I spent most of my adult years in Evansville, Indiana, and that local economy really hadn't recovered from the 2007, bit. And during that time, venues were going out of business. Mm-hmm. It became super competitive, and they had a nice music scene there. I mean, they really did. You could with 3 colleges. I mean, very similar to Wilmington. You had fresh people that always wanted to come out. You had the old heads that were still supporting. You had a jazz scene, a small theater scene. So there was a great music and acting college there. Mm-hmm. So you had talent.
Yeah. And an audience.
But the venues just could not support themselves, and so I just feel like at that time when it was a little bit of struggle, I wasn't going to fight too much on moving. Mm-hmm. And we ended up moving to Sarasota, Florida, and it was beautiful. We met a lot of nice people, but there wasn't a gig there.
Yeah, Siesta Key, that area,
mm-hmm,
right?
Yep. And there just wasn't the few places that were doing it had their set people, and there was no breaking in. I think I played.
Wow.
I think I went. I didn't even play. I went to one open mic, and it was like a mixture of not great comedy and performance art. And it was like, you know, and by the way, not great performance art. And it was. I know a lot of that is subjective, but it was a little out there, and so I just wasn't comfortable. Yeah. I did happen to get into home recording quite a bit though during the time, so it's not like it's not like I stopped playing.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I feel like I kind of got, you know, dove into the gear that wasn't the stuff that before it was always like need the specific guitar, need the specific amp, want to, you know, good mic setup, need a PA, and now it was like, oh, need a good interface, I need soundproofing, I need, you know, this kind of stuff, and so I got into that, which helped me write some and kind of got me into the modern day bit of the younger people who are listening. May not understand this, but YouTube didn't always exist.
Nope.
And you actually had to learn things, and you know, not just watch somebody do it,
Or TikTok. Learn things from TikTok.
I still don't know that TikTok exists, so that's the.
What?
Yep. But but it was neat because you had all this information where home recording. I had multi-track setup before, and you could do good work on it, but nothing. Like, you know, just having a computer, an interface, your instruments, and a song, and being able to do it in a small room was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and the fact that though there's people who go to school for it and they know much more than I do, I thought, man, it's just amazing that I can go and see some of the mistakes that somebody else has made and learn from it.
Yeah.
Or I can go, man, it's just not sounding the way it is in my head. And with the right descriptive terms, I could go to Google and figure it out. And so that was a really fun journey there. But it was not the same as performing for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, if a gig falls in the woods and there was nobody there to hear it,
you don't get any energy back from other people.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I love about gigging is that, like, I always tell people, it's like, you never know what's going to happen. You can go, it can be, like, empty when you get there, and, like, you just, like, think you know what's going to happen, and then all of a sudden, like, this group of people comes in, and they just, like, change the whole vibe of the show, and you have, like, so much fun, or you get told a cool story, and then
as I felt like that open mic. I mean, how many open mics have you been to that didn't have that magic?
Right.
You know, how many shows, you know, venues where I always kind of say there's a place for everybody, and I like, you know, the places that I like that I constantly have good feedback, or maybe this group just happens to like my stuff. And I've played places where it's like, these guys don't care.
right.
You know, but if they will even tell me, like, oh, have you seen CB? I love his stuff, and we do something completely different.
Yep.
You know, and or especially Adam Carswell was somebody that I met, and I just got to see him play at a benefit out in Carolina Beach, and I hadn't seen him play in a while. And he does more of the country stuff, and I was like, man, he's fantastic at it. It's not my bag, but boy, it's just not what I do.
Yeah.
But man, that audience was loving it, and I was loving the audience was loving it.
Yeah,
you know?
It's cool to be there. It's like I can appreciate the experience.
Yeah, sure. So I kind of get, you know, there's a place for everybody.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you're worried that you haven't found your spot yet, it's around. It's around.
Yeah.
And I like the nights where when you show up, you think it's going to be just another, like, long, lengthy practice, no big deal. And 10 minutes into it, you hear, like, 15 people start just going nuts, and it's like, what?
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, it's no longer me in my room again.
Right.
Yeah. And Emily's right. It can be like that group of 4 people that, you know, then you're having like a real-time conversation, and, you know, that's a...
and if you hit the right notes, you know, it's a good night.
Yeah. And that's very different than a studio experience.
Yeah.
So was that your first time writing or not your first time writing?
No, I had started writing. I remember at some point, and I don't remember the year, but I remember sometime after high school, I had moved to Nashville, and I went to a small school there for, you know, I had those parents that it was that era that you had to go to college, you had to find something. I protested that to a bit. As you do, but I
As
did,
one does.
And to be honest with you, like, I came out of high school already playing. I'd already done some shows and had some good experiences, and I just was like, well, maybe I'll give Nashville a try, and went to the small school. The school, I just wasn't into school.
Yeah.
I mean, it just wasn't. I learned so much more.
What school did you go to?
Trevecca.
Okay.
A small Nazarene University at the time.
So I went to Belmont. So
Yeah.
Heard
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you heard of it, but I mean, it just drove by it. It's and it's a great school, but I didn't end up enjoying myself. What I did enjoy, though, this comes back to maybe some of the recording stuff. I went for radio broadcast, and I learned enough, and I was like, well, a lot of this is useful in both worlds.
Yeah.
And now in the dawn of social media that we were talking about before the show, it's like a lot of that has, I'm doing a podcast not a radio show.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
it's the same thing, just with a camera.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
Which is kind of like TV without tape.
Yeah, exactly.
Once I convince people of that, they're like, oh, this goes a lot faster.
But yeah, so I enjoyed Nashville, but I did notice that I got to go to a couple open mics, and I got to do some stuff, and I don't know, I was 18, and everybody was writing but me. Mm-hmm. And I had ideas, and I had been in original bands as a guitar player, but hadn't really put pen to paper. Mm-hmm. And that was it's still a muscle I wish I flexed a little bit more, because I do notice, it's funny, I was listening to Penguin on the way. Somebody came on, and I didn't know who it was, and it was a folky song. I think it was the Lumineers. I didn't. It shows you on the dashboard.
Yeah. We're so spoiled.
Yeah. And it wasn't. I don't know. It was kind of a slow song, and I go, "This isn't my kind of song." But what I thought about, because I knew I was coming here and we were going to eventually talk about songwriting, I go, you can write these songs that aren't bangers, and sometimes it's just enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like if you don't write those 20, 40, 80 bad songs, you're never going to get to the one song. So you have to do it. You have to flex that muscle and keep working it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, it's something I go on and off about, just like my real muscles.
It's almost like photography
Yeah.
in the old days, where you would burn through a roll of film for one shot.
Yeah, and maybe not one shot. That's the... But
yeah, that's like everyone always says. Like you're writing in your notebook, and then you're gonna have so many that you're just gonna ball up and throw.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not gonna use any of that.
Yeah.
Well, and so much of it too is I can't tell you how many notebooks. To my knowledge, I haven't thrown any away, and I have stuff from the early 2000s that I've gone back and looked at, and maybe I haven't used that line, but I've like reworked a phrase or made it relevant to something else. Mm-hmm. And I do think that don't throw the stuff away. And I've noticed when I go see the younger people at the Voice and Pen and stuff, like they're probably texting everything or putting it all on their phone.
Voice memos.
I would imagine that very rarely does an actual pen hit the paper.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
that's true.
I try to still write daily, whether it's a song or not, but just just in the practice of writing and then extracting something out of it. I'm not, it's sometimes I write daily, sometimes I write weekly, sometimes I write monthly.
I write weekly, but spelled EA.
I think writing in a notebook that's something I want to get back to, because I have a tendency, because my phone is always with me, so I'm like, if I have something, I like write it in my notes, and then like a lot of times I'll go search, and I'm like, where is that I put that, and then I put it under this other weird note that doesn't make any sense, and I can't find it. So if you have like a notebook, and like I think actually just like writing it out too with your hand, kind of like, I don't know, there's something about that.
I feel like that's a way that I learn. I am sure that I have some kind of undiagnosed learning something or another, but school was tough. And if I didn't have tutors and if I didn't write down things, it really did not stick.
Yeah.
And that's I do like, I'm good at texting myself and then taking it home to the notebook.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good because like that's the thing. Like I have it scattered everywhere. Like I have 2 or 3 different notebooks. I have a text message thread with myself. I have a bunch of voice memos that I've recorded, and I know that the thing I'm lacking. Like if that's how you capture it, fine. But the thing that I'm lacking and should put into my schedule is like 1 hour a week to like go through it, organize it, like make sense of it. You know?
Right.
I got the best piece of advice I've gotten about that lately is from BJ Barham with American Aquarium, and he was talking about how what he does is just writes for like 2 years of just stuff, like text message thread, all that, and then he goes away for like 2 weeks and writes an album of his experiences in the last 2 years, which is a little bit long-term frame for me. So I'm like, hey, let's boil this down to like weekly. Like maybe if I can, set aside an hour a week and organize my thoughts and maybe song ideas come out. I don't know. But it is like the more you write, the more you use it, the easier it gets in a way. But like there's so many things to study as a musician,
Oh, yeah.
Booking, music theory, performance, singing, songwriting, like where do you focus your energy?
And like I said, there's so much to be learned and you can read all the books, but sometimes you just got to shut up and do it.
Yeah.
Like that's just, and find your way and figure it out. I like that idea of writing stuff out and then taking 2 weeks to go write an album. I haven't taken 2 weeks in 10 years to do anything. My wife and I, for our 10th anniversary, took our first vacation in 10 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
For a week.
Yeah. When we're rock stars, we can do that, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, good on him, but...
Good job, dude. Not sure, but how do you get from here to there? I think that's really what we're all asking.
I'm trying to figure out how to get 2 weeks off.
I know, right?
That'll take another 2 weeks and write that record.
Yeah. I'd love to go away to it's like I think I saw Nick Black say he's going away to Boone and he's going to do some writing, and I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Or hang out on a lakeside or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Patty Griffin was saying the same thing at her last show I just went to, and she's like, for some reason I feel like she said she went to Mexico, but I think she drove somewhere from like Texas and like some secluded spot, and she's like, I cracked open my Modelo and I was looking at this beautiful, like I think it was in Arizona, like sunset, and then I wrote this song, I'm like, I want to do that.
Sounds great.
Right, like by herself.
Do you need somebody to carry your luggage?
Yeah. I feel like if I cracked open a Modelo in a beautiful sunset in a secluded spot, I'm not writing a song.
Good point.
That sounds a lot like work.
I'm going to enjoy that sunset and that Modelo.
So do you have like a particular writing style that works really well for you that is like where a lot of songs come from, or is it all over the board?
It's a little all over the board. I will say this. I've always fancied myself a more proficient guitar player than singer, than songwriter. And I do, like, that's where my regiment comes in, is I sit down and I probably get at least an hour worth of guitar playing in a day, and a lot of times it's something like a melody or something will come out that way, and I'll be like, okay, well, that sounds cool. Now I need lyrics to go on top of it. And sometimes I have them and sometimes I don't. But that's when I start going through the notebook. And I also say that kind of like in my speaking style, I have those one-liners where, it's like, okay, well, this will be a great part. I have to write a song around, I have to make this one liner or this one great line work. And, that's... easier said than done sometimes, so I end up with some half-written stuff. But it's like it'll get there. Yeah. When I finish something, I'm normally pretty happy with it. Whether anybody else is happy, but I normally find it's a fairly complete work. I've got the instruments the way it is in my head. I got the lyrics.
Yeah, that's good. That's cool. Yeah. That's a new thing that I'm trying is looping a chord progression that I like, and then using the guitar to find a melody line that I like, and then trying to vocalize, even if there are no words. Like, okay, how am I going to sing this melody line through here? Because I don't have the same range my guitar got. So and it's interesting. I haven't really fully written a song that way. I like a lot of pieces that way, and I get confused sometimes about like, is this hook the opening line? Is it the chorus? Is it, where
Yeah,
does this great line go?
Yeah.
How do I use this to its best, maximum potential? And that's not always clear.
Yeah. I have a buddy up back in Indiana who's Dave Newton. I'm not sure if he's still. Last time I spoke to him, he was still writing, but he was in a band called Bosco, and they got some regional success. But he was always one of the guys that worked at the music store, and we hung out and stuff, and we talked songwriting, and he was always just like, whatever it is, finish the song. And I'd watch the guy straight up, have the idea, and here's 3 verses. They may not all connect or whatever, but at least it's done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you could go back and do it. And I appreciated that. I've tried to do that, and I'm almost never happy with the result. And then I sometimes I feel like I get frustrated. And I feel like when it's half a song, it's a lot more. It's easier in my mind to edit it,
More
or come back
malleable.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Same for me.
I feel like if I wrote it and it's done, I might not come back to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
right, because you're like, it's done. It's a song.
it's a song. And then I go, it might not be a great song.
Can you tell us a little bit about Matilda? Because you told me an interesting story about that. I don't know if you want to share that story, but about maybe like the writing process and how that came to you.
Yeah. So I was, I bought this house, and a buddy of mine were living in the house, young, and I was watching a movie, and I want to say it was the Green Mile, and I remember there was a character in the background, and I want to say it was a nurse, but it may not have been a nurse. And I don't know why, you just have those moments sometimes where I go, I kind of wonder, I'd seen the movie before, so it wasn't like a surprise ending, but I just started going down this rabbit hole. I wonder what her life was like. And I wonder what was going on there. And then I was like, being from Indiana, there's like every station is playing a Mellencamp song. I mean, it's just, that's part of just being there. But, I kind of got into that Jack and Diane mode of like, oh, that was kind of it's not my favorite song. It's something that just got beaten to your head because you're from Indiana. But,
Most of the United States for a little while, too.
Yeah, exactly. But it ended for the rest of the United States. It never ended in Indiana.
It's never going to stop. It never will end.
But, I really did start going into, I wonder what her childhood was like. I wonder what this is like. And then I kind of got from the other side of, because it's hard for me to imagine the life of a girl at that age. But then I kind of thought about, I grew up in a fun little neighborhood in Indianapolis where we had, it was a great space to be a little kid. You had a creek, you had a neighborhood with a cul-de-sac and kids your age. Mm-hmm. And so I started thinking of like, if you would have met like a girl you dated, I mean, because we moved around a lot, I couldn't imagine if you met somebody at like that you were childhood friends with,
right? And
then you hung out and went on a date in your teenage years, and then your college years, and then getting married and doing all that other stuff. That wasn't my life, mm-hmm. But I kind of went back. Maybe it was hers, and I don't know why, but I wrote that story down mm-hmm. like quick, and before it was gone, and I had a keyboard out. It wasn't even guitar, and it's probably like it's a GDC song, but I just wrote Hey Matilda. Mm-hmm. That was it. Yeah. That song came quick. As a matter of fact, I paused the movie and wrote that.
Time out.
Yeah. So
the muse has descended.
Yeah. And that was that actually 2000, 2001. I just moving back to Indiana, and it was about that time that I think America Online and some of the stuff like that way.
Oh yeah, AOL.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
And like my email was consistent and stuff like that. And
.edu.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've had that same Yahoo address for a long time. But I do remember I had a buddy who had a recording studio, and we went over there and recorded just kind of a demo version of that song. And it got a little bit of like college play. And, you know, it was one of those, you know, it was a short hit, but it's one that is always going to be on the set list. You know, people still respond to it, so
that's important.
Yeah,
yeah. You were on the second show that Voice in the Pen did when we were at the Real Cafe, and I remember it was the first time I'd heard original songs of yours, and I remember that one stood out to me as well.
I remember I hadn't played a straight up original show in a while, and I was sweating. I was sweating. I didn't bring my pedals. I said, I'm just going to go up and do it. And
yeah, we get that from everybody. They're like, people who are like, I've played, you know, tons of shows. I don't get nervous. But then when they come on Voice in the Pen, they're like, I'm nervous.
Yeah, that was a good experience. And, you know, the Voice in the Pen has turned out really well. Yeah. Really well.
Thank you. Well, I mean, it's being in relationship with people like you and a bunch of other different artists. If we didn't have artists to play, there wouldn't be a Voice in the Pen. If we didn't have artists to come be an audience, because that's a huge part of our audience is the artist. You know, like, you know, I didn't come up in the musical industry in any way. Like, I kind of like wandered into it. I'm like, I don't know, figure this out, you know, and the people that are the biggest supporters of original music all seem to be songwriters, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, like totally that is the epicenter of that. And so it's super cool that we have that opportunity that Emily's kind of forged to get together on a regular basis and celebrate that. So thank you for your support of the Voice in the Pen.
Thank you guys for letting me support it. That's that's been a great thing too, as I do feel like Wilmington in general is, I said this when we started looking at places to move. And I was born here, but I didn't grow up here at all. I don't have any family. But I did used to play down in Myrtle Beach a few times, and I'd drive back and take the disposable camera out and take pictures and, you know, whatever. And every year this place got cooler and cooler and cooler. And when we decided we were going to leave Florida, Anna and I came up here and once, and we had a good time. And then we looked at Charlotte, just because it was a little closer to home and some other things. And I remember coming back here with her and just having a blast. And the one thing I could say at the time, I said, well, one, there's music going on everywhere, and we were just here for whatever. Also, I noticed, you know, where I grew up, you had kind of like the Old Man Blues Bar. You had like the restaurants your mom and dad went to. You had like the little wild, crazy 21-year-old venue, and nobody really mixed it up at all. And what I've noticed here is like there's no ageism. There's no like nobody cares. If you're cool, you're hanging.
Yeah.
And if you're not cool, you're gonna stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
And that's something I noticed, and it's continued. And where I'm going with that is I noticed also at the Voice and Pen, it's a wide range of songwriters, performers, and everybody seems to appreciate it. You know, I mean that's a, I may have been really nervous that first performance, but I never felt like they're going to throw tomatoes at me.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have tomatoes at Real Cafe, but but you know,
just ketchup. Just ketchup.
I've got a tartar sauce. But yeah, I never felt like that. And especially as that community has grown, I think it's been really, really inclusive to everybody, and it's been really nice.
It's important. I mean, I think that everybody, if you're a songwriter, like one of the most important things to feel is included.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because you're
regardless
sharing the
of
stuff
genre.
that you've been doing in your bedroom for you know however long. You're like, okay, here's a little look inside of my world. You know,
There's so many of us that are awkward about our world to begin with, and have our own ticks and whatever, which makes us creative.
Yeah.
You know, but it is nice to feel safe in large numbers.
Yeah.
So.
You want to play some songs?
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, so I was just going to say, like, how vulnerable it is to get up there and do that. And I feel like one of the things that I hear the most, I think that I've heard the most from musicians that play is, like, so many of them will get up and be like, I'm sorry that all of my songs are sad. I swear, they're all sad. And I want to be like, You are one amongst so many. Do not worry. Keep singing the sad songs. It's okay.
We've heard a few.
Oh,
Here,
yeah.
give or take.
Yes.
Hey, Matilda, well, I'm knocking on your door. Hey, Matilda, I'm falling on your floor. Ask your mom to go on the bike ride. I'm coming in so we can play outside. On the teeter-totters, or some seek and hide. And we can run away, well, all too soon. Play tag in the afternoon, just me and my Matilda. Just me and my Matilda. Oh, love, love, yeah. Well, hey Matilda, I'm knocking on your door. Hey Matilda, I guess I never noticed you before. Well, ask your dad if we can go on a date. I'm coming in, 'cause I can hardly wait. Up the driveway and through the gate. And we can run away, well, all too soon. Hold hands in the afternoon, just me and my Matilda. Just me and my Matilda. Well, something happened when we grew old. Time ran out and when it got so cold. Dream of college, we could go in the bars. But a knock on the door, put me on the floor, and a smile said, I'm looking at my Matilda. Oh, no, no, no. Ooh, 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 ooh. All right now. Ooh, ooh, right. Ooh, 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 ooh. She said I'm coming in so we can play outside. On the teeter-totters or some seek and hide. We can run away, well, all too soon. Hold hands in the afternoon. Get married, do some crazy thing. Just see what that future brings for me and my Matilda. Just me and my Matilda. Just me and my Matilda. Oh, 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 oh. Ooh, right. Ooh, yeah, yeah. Sweaty hands. Song called Stay. See you coming round. Eyelids made of lead. Try to sleep, I go to bed, yeah. I know that you are down, so there's nothing to be said. You're like a compass spinning down in my head. I close the door, the car leaves the bed. Well, it's not about my past, it's that I didn't make you stay. I know that you are down, So you're going into town. I guess you don't want anyone else around. Well, honey, you're going into town. You're gonna meet some friends. I guess my day has ended before it's begun. I close the door of the car. It leaves the bed. Well, it's not about my friends. It's that I didn't make you stay. I see you turn around. Was there something that I missed? You rolled the window down and blow me a kiss. I put it in my hands, then I place it on my lips. And I'm just glad that you did not give me the slip. So you close the door of the car, it leaves the bed, and I think of you and me, and damn, I'm glad we're here to stay. Love, 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 yeah. Do